stuff I'm going to share with you this morning is something the Lord showed me 25 years ago I'd never preached. I'd never preached it 25 years ago. I've shared it with friends, but I've never actually preached it as a sermon. But first of all, I just want to talk about, very similar what we're talking about on the communion is what's on the head. Now this is the first service in the new year, and it is an important benchmark. We have just gone around the sun one more time. That's what it is. 1 year. We've been around the sun. We've been on a journey this last 12 months. And how do we look ahead now for the next 12 months? How do we look ahead? Well, I'm a surveyor by profession. So my job entails me to go out to a block of dirt that hasn't got anything on it and to sort of look ahead. A lot of times I'm given an idea by someone and then he might have a plan for it. But then it's my job to go out there, look ahead, peg it out, get it ready before the work starts. It's a little bit prophetic in a way. I go out there and just sort of visualise what's going to be happening, work out where these guys have got to move dirt from point A to point B. And I like to look ahead, but I've also got to look behind. Now, the last 12 months, certain things have been happening in this church. Certain things have been happening in couples' lives. And the other week, I actually had a haircut because I looked a little bit of a scruff, my wife reckoned. Some of us need more haircuts than others. But when I was sitting down getting a haircut, I had a mirror in front of me and I could see myself in the mirror. And even then I'm actually looking at the past because it takes a certain length of time for the light waves to run from me to the mirror and back again. So I'm actually looking in the past when I'm looking in a mirror. But then she was cutting the back and she said, well, how long do you want it? And so she grabbed a mirror, took it around behind my head and stood there with the mirror behind me. So I would look forward, to look backward, to look forward. Okay. Now the Bible is like that. We look at the Bible, we look backward in the prophecy of the Old Testament to look forward. Now the same principle applies to our life here. In the last 12 months, when I see a couple that thought their ministry was coming to an end go to India for a few months, I can see that we're looking forward. They're looking forward. The last 12 months we've been away 5 months all over the place in the motorhome, ministering here, there, everywhere. In the last 12 months, Bob and Kay have really established something here with the ministry you're doing here. You really have. In the last 12 months, was it 3 or 4 men went to New Guinea. Did something up there. In the last 12 months, the children's church has been going great. In the last 12 months, we have mainly music, which has been really building up. In the last 12 months, we've seen healing rooms start. A trip to America backwards, all in the last 12 months. Well, what I'm saying now, there's other ones I could mention, but I won't go through everyone here. But in the last 12 months, things have been happening in this church. I was talking to a friend of mine from Childers this morning, or Apple Tree Creek actually. I said, the church where we go, things are happening, people are doing things. So, how does the last 12 months have relationship on the next 12 months? And I believe we've got to look back to look forward. I want to see what the back of my head looks like. So I've got to look back to look forward. Because if I'm looking at the back of my head, I'm also looking past me, I'm seeing into the future. Right? When I'm driving, I'm looking in front of me. I've also got the revision mirror to check out what's behind me. It's usually a big semi sitting up behind the motorhome because for some reason they seem to love sitting right up. The closer the better. But with this new one, I just put my foot down and I can leave them behind, so it's great. But what we have done in the last 12 months, each one individually has got an effect on what is happening in the next 12 months. You realise that? So to see forward, look at what you've been doing in the last 12 months. To get a vision for the next 12 months, see what you've done in the last 12 months. Because everything you have done in the last 12 months is a foundation for building on in this next 12 months. What have you been listening to? How many sermons have you listened to? How many books have you read? I love reading books. Lately I've been, since my birthday in September, I was given a few books then, and one of the books was actually called The Heavenly Man. It's about in China. How this guy spent all his time in jail. I'm just nodding, you've read it. Okay. Interesting thing about the book, that when they started getting the Westerners in to preach into the underground churches, they said they were nearly useless because they could only go for half an hour to an hour before they'd run out of things to say. Yeah. That's one of the boundaries we put on ourselves in Australia. I only preach for half an hour, Karl, because after half an hour people lose concentration. And I had a pastor tell me that up north. I said, yeah, I agree. He said, yeah, you agree? I said, yeah, because you're saying it, I have to agree. It's your confession that people can only concentrate for half an hour, so I'm agreeing with your confession. By the time I left there, he said, I'm going to have to change my confession, won't I? See how we get stuck in the past instead of looking for the future. Think outside the box. Outside the box. What have we done in the last 12 months to prepare for the next 12? What have we done? Where have we sown our seed to see the harvest come? It might come from a totally different place. You know that? God is so good. We've got a web page going, and the quality of our DVDs or our videos on there has not been exceptionally good. Because we're sort of limited to a couple of little cheap cameras. Well, those of you who might notice, in the last month or so, I've got to give Stan credit. Stan is a great guy. He has just walking with the Spirit. And this is what's happened. Look at this, folks. You see two big cameras there? God has provided where we could not provide. Totally outside of anything we'd ever expect or hope. Like where you got the healing rooms. Totally outside what you expect or hope. But there's some things you've got to do in the past that God will build on in the future. You have to go to the expense of going to America, right? You guys had to go to the expense of going to India. I haven't had time to spend with you yet, but I really would like to sometime just to share with you what's actually happening over there. And this guy from China, he said that unless they came over and at least could preach for at least 2 hours, don't even bother coming. I'm not going to do that to you this morning. Thank you, Lord. Is that what you said, Kate? Thank you, Lord. God is so good. But look forward, look back, and look forward again. What do you want to happen in the next 12 months? It's all a